Ashling Smith-Vance here again, bringing you another live speaker talk for the NLP Global Summit. Today, I am delighted to be sharing the stage with Paul Ward, who is one of our global speakers coming to us all the way from the United Kingdom. Welcome, Paul. Thank you for being here.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I didn't get that.
Oh,
could you try?
Siri thought I was talking to her. that tend to happen sometimes during training too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry about that, Paul. So tell our members a little bit about you, who you are, and how you got your start with NLP.
Well, yes. Well, as you say, I'm based in the UK, and I am here now as an NLP trainer and a coach. I work with people one-to-one and in groups with the work that I do. But my journey into NLP started when I was in my other career, as is a story of so many people that we were doing something that turned into something else. And for me, that was retail management. I was working for many, many years, serving customers and then working my way up the management ladder, deciding to myself that, or trying to convince myself this is exactly what I want in my life, knowing all along that it really wasn't what I wanted in my life. And as part of that, I stumbled across NLP because I was reading personal development books, trying to convince myself that this is how I'm going to help other people become great at what they do. And of course, all the time I was working on myself. So that's when I first came across NLP. And if I'm going to be really, really honest as to why I got into NLP, when I was telling people I'm looking into neuro-linguistic programming, I just thought it sounded cool. I just thought I'd be different to everybody else. And all the way through my life, if somebody said that's the direction to go, I don't automatically look in the opposite direction. So,
mismatcher.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that actually was what was driving me away from the retail career, because in the retail career I was wearing a suit, tie, behaving in a way that actually was deemed acceptable, and for me it wasn't about doing what everybody else did. I wanted to do something different, and NLP kind of presented that self to me, and I became just more and more curious, and eventually made that decision to walk away from my retail career and start exploring the coaching route.
Wow.
And
that's so brave, Paul. That's so brave, because so many people want to do it, but just can't muster up all of the courage to actually make a decision and make it happen. What was the turning point for you, would you say?
The turning point for me, I realized I was quite good at being a manager. And I realized that what I enjoyed and was learned to be good at was bringing on people to do the tasks that I felt was best for them. So I had this team of people around me that were performing brilliantly. And one of whom, full circle this week, I invited him to a networking group to do a presentation. So he was a member of my team 20 years ago. And I was stood on my shop floor in my grey suit at the time, thinking to myself, why am I wearing a grey suit? But, you know, it was one of those things. And I was looking around thinking, this is bringing a nice warm feeling to me that everybody is doing exactly what they want. They're doing it with a smile on their face. And I'm stood there looking at and then started looking inward and thought to myself, they're all happy. I'm not. I'm really not. This is not what I want with my life. And literally within a week, I handed my notice in and had a conversation with my boss. And he said to me, so what are you going to do? And I said, well, I do have a job to go to. There was a considerable drop in salary. But my long-term goal was to be working and having my own coaching practice. And he said to me, well, how did you do that? And I looked at him and went, I don't have a clue, but that's what I'm going to do. And a month later, I'd moved on. I'd moved on to other things.
Huge congratulations, Paul. That's so brave. And, you know, it is the story that echoes the story of so many people who they come to a point and they make a decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's great to have that story and know that you've been through it, as you say, because it's quite a common story. And then as an NLP trainer and a coach, you come across people who are now at that crossroads. and recalling what it was like to be in that position just gives you a unique slant, a different lens to look at that situation and help and support people through that part of their journey, which I find fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And the support is such a big thing. I'm actually in my coaching career, I coined myself the purpose coach, helping people find their purpose, because in my career I found that so many people were doing jobs and careers and following paths that were somebody else's dream and not their own at all. And you know, that they'd fell into things and just like stayed there stuck because, well, you know, that's just the way it happens. And I think that when you get to this level of NLP as a trainer and a visionary, you can see so many possibilities for the students that come before you, and the opportunities that and you obviously already did that in your previous career, so it was a very easy transition across.
It was, but let's be brutally honest as well. I needed a little bit of convincing along the way, you know, because here I was on a decent salary back then, yeah, and I just got married, and we had a child, and you know, you got to think about all that stuff around you, and through that process, I was on a course in my retail career towards the end, and excuse me. During that course, where I've been reading lots about NLP, somebody sat down and said, right, well, here's something I'm going to introduce you. And we had a module based around NLP. And I thought, this is fascinating, but I want to know if it works. And I was being told some real basic stuff about NLP, about the connecting neurons in the brain and doing things for the first time, you know, recreating new habits and so on, and programming. And weirdly, the test that I put to myself was in my management role, as people started their shift, they would bring me a cup of coffee. So it would mean that I'll be drinking about 15 cups of coffee a day, which obviously is not great. I accept that. However, what was even less great is I had 2 sugars in each one, which I knew was really, really not good. So I thought, well, I'm going to try this out. And I made a decision not to have sugar in my coffee, and told myself, this is normal. This is right for me, just to be able to act as if. And 3 coffees in, I started to get used to it. And then literally within 24 hours, someone brought me a coffee with sugar in it, and I just couldn't take it. And so I was applying those early understandings of NLP at that stage, thinking, okay, that if I tell, it was almost a submodality exercise of its own, without me even knowing what a submodality exercise was.
Yeah,
that, you know, it was actually
like
it's
to
just my
dislike, right in the
experience.
flesh. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And so many years later, after training to do submodality, like to dislike myself, and then now training others to do it. And let's be honest, as a trainer, the joy and pleasure of watching somebody describe the thing that they don't
I
like
have.
is it's
That's
always
one
a
of my
highlight, isn't it?
favorite. It really is. As a trainer, it's one of my favorite.
Yeah,
And I think sometimes in the real world, depending on your niche in NLP, you don't like, when I train people from the fitness
yeah,
world as
yeah,
NLP coaches, I'm like, guys, you're going to use this because you're going to
yeah.
have your clients who want to lose
Oh
weight and want
yes,
to, and you're going to have to like do the like to dislike with them. So, and it's
yeah,
so effective. It's just
yeah.
so, I love it. It's one of my
Do you know,
favorite
I
tools.
think we should compile a list of what people come up with as their dislike,
Yeah,
and put that in a list somewhere, because that would make amusing reading
it
sometimes.
would
Because it's
actually.
that layering on afterwards that someone says, "Oh, I don't like whatever it is," and then we create it to make it even more
Yeah, I've had
distasteful.
some good ones. Some chips to cucumber,
Oh, okay,
Coca-Cola to whiskey.
okay,
And you know, that Coca-Cola is a good one because especially with
yeah,
weight loss, you know, so
definitely,
to find an alcoholic drink that maybe made you sick as a child,
absolutely.
as a young
Yeah.
person, it can be yeah, it's definitely an easy one to
The
exchange,
one,
isn't it?
the one that sticks in my mind, which actually is health related, as you say, we had a personal trainer on one of our courses, and we were asking people, is there anyone here who is eating or habitually picking up a food that they would rather not? And she sheepishly put her hand up. I thought, personal trainer, and
Mm.
nutrition, what's going on here? And she said crisps. And again, we thought, that's interesting. And then she confessed to eating between 9, 10, or 11 bags of crisps a day. So it was her
Oh,
go-to
it's a
snack
guilty
throughout the
pleasure.
there
Yeah, wow.
and she there was also that lack of congruency, because here she is as a personal
Mhm.
trainer working with her clients, snacking on crisps in between.
And
And we
telling
did
them
the
not
lot
to do it.
exactly, and we
Yeah.
did the like to dislike, and her dislike was slugs.
Ah,
So
okay.
so it would be put a hand in, pick out, etc. And sure enough, it worked. And we
Yeah.
then did the rest of the exercise with everybody else in the room. But I kept in contact with this lady, and for
Hmm.
9 weeks afterwards, she maintained it all the way through. And I say 9 weeks because I picked up with her after 9 weeks, and
Yeah.
beyond that, she was overjoyed at that, because it was enough to
Yeah.
break that habit to the point where she now has actually stopped her personal training business and is running a vegan food business, and she's
Oh,
promoting vegan food. So that was part
amazing.
of her journey towards that,
Yeah.
which is
It's life-changing stuff. There's no doubt about it, Paul. We are very blessed to be in a position where we can help people create these
definitely.
kind of changes. So tell me now, tell me more about
Hmm.
what you're going to be presenting at the NLP Global Summit. So what are our members going to learn from your presentation?
Well, there's as part of my journey to become a trainer of NLP, or to get me where I am now, let's put it that way. I did my NLP practitioner course, master prac course, and so on. At the point at which I was introduced to my trainer of NLP, who's now my co-trainer, a chap called Bevis Moynihan, he and I met and started talking about NLP. And at that point, he also introduced me to a wonderful tool called Motivational Maps. And I became a practitioner of both at the same time,
Mm,
when I was back then, I was just nodding and saying yes to stuff, and took this tool on board as part of the process, not really sure what I was going to do with it.
mm,
But it has now formed the backbone of my business as well as NLP, to be able to help people. So it's a quick way of understanding what motivates us deep down. So it's very closely linked to values as well.
yeah,
So
right.
I've used that throughout my coaching practice and development of my training practice as well. So in my presentation, what I've looked to do is to explore well-formed outcomes, the point at which we all start to decide what it is we really, really want. So earlier in our conversation, talking about people at that crossroads in their career, or maybe in their relationship even, or they're just on their journey to find out who they are. We can write down are well-formed outcomes in terms of, yes, I'm kind of building up a picture of what I really, really want in my life, and what's going to be present, and what my first steps are to take it. So we've almost deciding what our direction is, and we then start to reflect on what skills or resources have I got available. With what I want to talk about is what drives us at a motivational level to be able to kickstart that. Because if you are motivated to make something happen, and you set your vision in a certain direction that involves lots and lots of hard work, but you're motivated by freedom, the two things
Mm,
aren't
mm.
necessarily going to match up, are they?
That's so
So
true.
that's
Yeah.
yeah. So if we can find out what motivates you as well as your values, and then use
Mm,
that to form your well-formed outcomes, there's a
mm.
higher chance that you will stick with that and be able to take the journey further all the way through.
Yeah, yeah, like a better chance of change happening in that instance
Yes.
because everything is connected to change. So then your presentation is based on this motivational mapping, is it?
Motivational, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
talk a little bit about it at the end, but throughout it's just just
Mm,
exploring and inviting listeners to just consider, as I go through the presentation, consider what it is that's really important to me. So
yeah.
we've just talked about the gym and health and fitness. So every January, many people say, I'm going to go to the gym 3, 4, 5, 10 times a week. If you are not the type of person who's motivated to go and get in the gym, then that's just not going to work. But if you are motivated by fresh air, by being outside, set your goal that doesn't involve going to the gym. Set your goal for being outside in the fresh air and taking exercise in that direction. So it's just considering that part, that element of your vision, as to include motivation in that. Because if you start doing something, taking action, taking that first step and enjoy it, you'll then be motivated to continue and do more of it. So that's kind of that's the loose
brilliant.
theme.
Yeah, that's right. And I think sometimes there needs to be something else in there, that there is something missing with the well-formed outcomes, in that real connection back to values, back to self, back to purpose, back to, what will make you get out of bed in the morning to make this become a reality for you. Yeah, the motivation. Excellent. I can't wait to watch it. All of the presentations are so different, and there's such a different take on it. It's so exciting, and I can't wait to watch them all, and then to rewatch them. To see them again, and to kind of take notes and say, wow, how can I apply this with my clients, and how can I develop this, and I love it, because I don't know if you'd agree, but I bet that you would, Paul. I'm mind reading now. But that we are lifelong learners in this field.
Definitely. I mean, myself and Bevis, my co-trainer I mentioned earlier, we did one of our first steps intro days yesterday in person. So we had 11 wonderful people in the room with us that are now starting their journey. And 2-3 hours into the day, because the way we love to train is just like, what do you want from the day? We have some slides, but it's, what do you want from the day? And people start, it's when one person in the room starts to be a little bit more vulnerable about, I'm uncertain as to where I want to be in life, and I want to find out where I'll need to, and then suddenly everybody else kind of like builds that rapport around them. But there's a certain point, and there always is, about 3 or 4 hours in, where we start saying, do you know what, we're learning from you. We're here as the trainers, but we are learning from your experience, and your questions is helping us grow and develop as NLP trainers, as coaches, as human beings. And by being open to that actually, yes, we definitely wouldn't want to be put on a pedestal as part of our training program. And I think that most NLPers are hopefully like that, in that sense of, well, if we're going to really live the values of NLP, then it's being open to experiences as and when they come to you, and what we can learn from them.
Yeah, absolutely. And bringing people in from around the world, and hearing what other people have to say, and building on top of your knowledge, by hearing what your presentation is, and some of the other presentations, it's like based upon what you have built upon the standard NLP training, and then on top of that, again, with your own experience of life, and through your own model of the world, and how that works, and how you've tweaked it, and how you've made it even better. And I think the caliber of trainers that are presenting at this summit are phenomenal, and there's so much to learn. So tell me, from your perspective, Paul, why was it important for you to be part of the NLP Global Summit?
Well, I think we really enjoy what we do where we are geographically. But when I did my trainers training, I went to Thailand to do my trainers training, and of course bumped into people from around the world, particularly from Malaysia, that kind of area. And a year after my training, I went back to Malaysia, or went to Thailand and then back to Malaysia, and spent some time there, and was mixing amongst people who had experienced NLP or coaching. And I've had a few kind of contacts globally where we've explored various different things, and I've always been fascinated how the same subject matter is interpreted in so many different ways. So to be part of a global summit where I'm sharing my worldview of NLP, and realizing and totally living in there's a wonderful phrase, and I've been searching to find out who came up with it, but it's just comes up so many times, with comparison is the thief of joy. And to be able to drop that and think to myself, because when I looked at the other presenters that are on the global summit, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would have panicked a little bit and thought, oh my goodness, they're great people. But now by dropping that and living that,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, wow, fantastic opportunity to be on the same stage as these wonderful speakers,
Yeah.
to share my experience and learn from them. And
Hmm.
naturally, for the amount of people that will be tuning in to listen to the
And
presentations as
and they
well.
will learn from you as well. I think that's
Oh,
the
thank
thing.
you.
And Fran and I are so proud of what we've put together, and we're so grateful to you and to all of the other wonderful speakers from around the world who have given of their time and their energy and their presentation and
Mm,
their expertise um, to join us and to share their knowledge with this community. It's going to be an amazing couple of days. So, you know,
absolutely.
my message to anybody out there who has not yet signed up or who's on the fence about thinking about joining, I say get your tickets now, and make sure you go VIP. Get the
Yeah,
recording so that you can rewatch them wherever you are in the world, and you can rewatch them for the rest of the year. You could choose one speaker a week and
mm,
listen to that once a day, so you really get to understand the topic, and you'd have a year of learning across the
absolutely.
whole of the speakers. So, you know, would you say anything to anybody who's on the fence about joining us for the summit, Paul?
I think just following on from what you've just described there, that if you are curious, which we want people to be curious in NLP anyway, but if you're curious
Mm,
about NLP, then here's a great opportunity to hear from a number of different speakers sharing their experience of NLP, to the point where actually you'll get a lovely rounded view of what might be your version of NLP.
that's
And
right.
so also what's fantastic is that I'm pretty confident to say all of the speakers would have started their NLP journey in a very similar way of
Mhm.
moving towards curiosity, towards reading, towards
Yeah.
practitioner course, towards master, and so it goes on.
Mm,
So using our intro day that we did yesterday, those 10 people have heard from myself and my co-trainer. If they
yeah.
were to now register, they've got
Oh,
now a global view to
yeah.
be able to like explore, wow, okay, I was sat in a training room
That's
near
it.
Cambridge, but now I've got an opportunity to see how this connects globally.
And there might be one speaker that they hear their story, their backstory, and their future story or their present story, and think, "Oh my God, that's me. That's
Yes,
my story." And
yes,
so that's I could go into that niche. I could follow that path. This, you know, and it reaffirms with them that yes, this pathway, this career, this life is for anybody who's willing to give it a go and
absolutely.
to follow
Yeah,
through. Or you can just do and learn the skills and learn the tools and apply them to your career. You don't have to become a coach and a trainer and all of the things if you don't want to.
yeah,
But you can. These skills are so applicable to even just
definitely,
being a parent, you know, or a
definitely.
partner, a human being.
Absolutely. And I love what you're saying there, because I've had that conversation an awful lot recently of a lot of business owners who are curious about NLP, but have in the past been mildly put off by the thought of, I don't want to become an NLP practitioner in terms of a coach, in terms of getting out there and selling myself as somebody who can help people. So just reframing the practitioner part of it and saying to those business owners, well, actually, more importantly, you practice NLP in your everyday life to be able to support yourself and those around you in your business, in your family. So you practice the techniques, you practice the mindset, and then we see how that will transform you as a human being, transform you as a business owner. And at no point do you then have to decide, I'm going to be an NLP coach. You
Yeah.
will, funnily enough, many of the business owners who were resistant end up curious and then following a path where they become a coach anyway.
Yes.
But at that early stage, it's about practicing the principles of NLP in your
Yeah.
world that'll make a difference.
And going back to those principles, this is my bonus question, Mark.
Mm.
What is your favorite NLP principle, NLP tool that you have in your toolbox?
Um, it's quite broad, because some of the we were talking earlier off camera about swish pattern and during the interview about submodalities. I love teaching, training those in the training room, But I guess in my day-to-day coaching, in my day-to-day interaction with people, the one tool I use more than anything else is reframing. Yeah,
Mm,
just simple linguistics where people
mm,
are blocked or trapped or stuck with their internal narrative, and they're coming out to say, I mean, one guy this week said to me, well, I asked him, what is it you really, really want? And he said to me, I want to be, and he thought about it. He said, I want to be comfortable.
mm,
Okay, so if you wanted anything else in the world, what would it be? And we explored that and started reframing that world. And I said to him, okay, well, I'm going to offer you an opportunity to be just really, really, totally and utterly comfortable. And
yeah.
it just helped him just think about his world, reframe his world. And there's lots of other stuff we talked about as well, that if I'm being comfortable, I want to be comfortable with all these other things around me, and then where
Mm,
I am in my career and so on. Just
mm,
yeah, simple reframing to me is one of the most powerful tools that I use on a regular basis.
yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's a really, really good one. One of my former students is actually building a business based on reframing. So,
Oh, lovely.
there's so many things that you can take from learning NLP and applying it into the
Yeah,
business context. Um, and more and more of you who are watching this and who are following through and attending the summit will have those aha moments, and you will listen to a presentation and you'll hear somebody speak and you'll hear, oh my goodness, maybe that's what I can do. Maybe I can pivot. Maybe that's the missing link in what I need to get the results with my clients. I'm grateful for all of the speakers. I'm grateful to you, Paul, for your time, for being involved with the summit, for joining us and making the NLP Global Summit global by attending all the way from the UK and providing us with your wit and wisdom over the course of the summit itself. So thank you for your time here today, and thank you for joining
thank you.
us at the
You're very
NLP
welcome.
Summit.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward.